Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. In the beginningless beginning, a time that the Sufis call Anathi, God was this immense power that was alone and enshrouded in darkness, and everything was contained within him. Nothing else existed. Everything was contained within that power. He was alone, and he was meditating on himself. And he did that for millions of years. And then there was a shimmer, a resonance, a shaking. And from within him came a light that came out and spoke to him. And it said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya Allah, you alone are God. There is no one other than you. And Allah asked this light, who are you? And the light said, I came from your heart. I am your essence. And that essence was known as the Nur. And the Nur divided itself. And from the Nur came the Ketubiyat. And the Nur and the Ketubiyat became and were the essence of Allah. And Allah asked, how did you develop? And they said, we developed within you. We developed as embryos within you. And we grew within you. And then the Nur and the Ketub rubbed against each other. And in that rubbing, millions of atoms were created and millions of lights were created. And all of them turned towards Allah and worshiped Allah. And they said to Allah, you created us, so now you must protect and sustain us. And then the Nur went back into Allah. And Allah once again meditated on himself. And after another set of millions of years, he came out of his meditation, and the Nur came out of him. And all of the darkness that surrounded Allah was discarded. And all of that which wasn't his essential self was discarded. And he decided at that time to make lives out of all of these lights and atoms that existed. And he created the elements, and he took the elements and formed them around these specific lights. And he created earth life and water life and air life and fire life and ether life. And finally, he created man. And to create man, he took the light rays that came from within him, known as the souls, and enveloped them in form. But in truth, they were light beings. Man must understand that his form is not who he is, that his form is, in truth, light. But there's a complication here. The elements that were used to create man and to create all life forms have a certain arrogance within them. Yes, they are created, but yes, they also have the arrogance of being. Just as man can have arrogance and has arrogance, the elements have arrogance. And the arrogance within them creates an instability in this world, creates an instability between the various elements. And that's why we have these natural disasters. The instability of the elements creates disasters. The earth creates disasters. Water creates disasters. Air creates disasters. Fire creates disasters. And we see these different disasters at different times. Right now, the world is paying particular attention to the earthquakes that occurred along the southern border of Turkey and the northern border of Syria, which caused immense devastation. But this has to do with the instability of the elements. The elements are not divine. The elements are a creation. And within that creation, there is an instability. And when that instability occurs in the world, and disaster occurs in the world. Now, we become very conscious of certain instabilities, and we become very conscious of certain disasters. We also should note that just as the earth is not stable, just as the elements are not stable, man is made of these same elements. And there is a compact or an agreement between the elements where they come together for a period of time and create the body of man. But this agreement between the elements dissipates over time, and man's body dissipates over time. In the same way that the earthquake happens to the earth, something happens to man, and man falls apart. Man dissipates. Man has the same trauma that the earth had. Man has the same trauma that fire has. Man has the same trauma that floods have. Man has the same trauma that hurricanes have, but they have different names for it internally within man. And these are what they call the diseases within man. These diseases within man are the instability of the elemental forces within man that cause the trauma within man. And right now, the world is focused on the trauma of the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. and the devastation, which is horrendous and which was not necessarily caused by man. But of course, there are points of view that certain things that man does may have caused much of this devastation. For instance, why did these buildings all fall apart? They're supposed to be able to withstand earthquakes, but there's greed involved, wherein people don't build buildings according to standards that would withstand these things. And why do they do that? Because of the greed of wanting to spend less money to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. But we also have so many traumas in other parts of the world. Traumas caused by men. Men go through their traumas and then try to inflict trauma on other men as if that's going to resolve their trauma. And this is what leads to wars. And then we have the trauma of wars. And right now, in many parts of the world, we have the trauma of war. Syria itself is in the midst of a war, and now they have this earthquake on top of the war. The Ukraine is in the midst of a war. Libya is having all kinds of internal civil war type conflicts. In many parts of Africa, people are arming themselves and killing other people. In many parts of the world, people are becoming severe towards other people and creating great difficulty towards other people. So we have this creation that we came into, and we have this creation that involves two parts. The part that is God's light that was given off from God, and the part that is creation, which was elemental. So we have an eternal part and we have an elemental part. And an elemental part has a time span to it. Man is very cognizant of his time span, or at least he should be, because there's evidence of his time span everywhere around him. Bawa, my sheikh, used to wear a set of beads around his neck. And people thought that these beads were so that he could do the tasbih and the zikr at any moment. And he said, that's not true prayer. True prayer is at a much higher level than that. The beads represent a noose around his neck. That means that his time is limited, and everyone has that same noose around their neck, and everyone's time is limited. So what is it that we are supposed to do with this limited time? What is it that we are supposed to accomplish within this limited time? And what that is that we need to come in touch with the truth of who we are, with the truth of our creation, not with the elemental portion of our creation. The elemental portion of our creation is Maya, or illusion, is temporary. The other part of our creation is eternal. But if we spend all our time with the temporary, if we spend all our time with illusion, then we are subject to illusion. And illusion is subject to the kind of trauma that we're talking about. So we need to come to know the truth of ourselves and the truth of who we are. We understand the creation story, but who is it that we are? Who is it that we, how is it that we were created? It is said that Allah told the angel Israel to go to four corners of the earth and gather earth and bring them together to a place called Karbala. And Karbala became the place of that creation. And it means battlefield. And it also represents the heart. So Allah created the heart as a battlefield. And that battlefield was the struggle between ourselves and illusion and ourselves and the truth. The struggle between the love for illusion, the love for that which is other than God, and the love for God. And this is the battlefield that we live in. This is the struggle that we go through. This is what we must accomplish in this earth. We must find that place that is truth. Haq means reality in Arabic. Haq, reality, is one of the names of Allah. Allah is reality. Nothing else is reality. So we need to find that reality. And in the same way that Allah discarded from himself all that is darkness, all that isn't his essence, all that isn't his truth, we must discard those things from ourselves. We must understand the 99 names of Allah. We must incorporate those qualities into us. We must understand the 3,000 gracious qualities of Allah, and we must incorporate those into us. Because if we don't, we are subject to time. And time is what happens as we dissipate. As time passes, we dissipate. As time passes, we fall apart. But if we can remove ourselves from time, then we become eternal within the light of Allah. So, arrogance creates time. All of the satanic qualities create time. Anger creates time because it is positioned within Maya. It isn't positioned within Haq. It's positioned within that which isn't true as opposed to that which is real. So everything that we do that is positioned outside of reality has a time limit to it. As soon as we turn the corner and position ourselves within reality, then we begin to do the work that Allah did, which was meditate on himself until the Nur came from him and the Ketub came from him and his essence became known to him, and he became this incredible effulgence of light that was the grace for the entire world. We must go within ourselves and find that effulgence within us. Allah placed within us all of the secrets that are within him, and all of the secrets that are within us are within him. Allah is full of treasure, and we need to find these treasures. Yet instead of looking towards Allah for truth and for his treasure, we look into this material world and we find other treasures which are temporary in nature. We find gold, we find gems, we find women, we find power, and we treat these as if they were important. And we treat these as if they had substance. And we begin to praise these things. And in essence, we make idols out of these things and worship these things. And these become our gods. So for some people, wealth is their God. For some people, power is their God. For some people, fame is their God. But all of these things that are other than haq, that are other than reality, are not stable. They all fall apart. And what's inside is also outside. So what we see, when we see things fall apart on the outside, we should understand that things also fall apart on the inside. And then when we see things fall apart on the inside, we should also understand that things fall apart on the outside. And we shouldn't be surprised by the fact that earthquakes occur, that hurricanes occur, that tornadoes occur, that fires occur, that all of these things occur. There's an instability in creation that is different than light, that is different than the eternal nature of light, that is different than the eternal kingdom of light. And we need to focus on that eternal kingdom of light. We need to focus on that truth. We need to focus on understanding that. So yes, we have to help the ones who suffer in this world. And yes, we have to be able to understand their suffering and give in order to assist them. And yes, we must see everyone's suffering as our own suffering. But the Quran says, if you save one life, you have saved all the lives in existence. And what does it mean to save a life? What does it mean when we say save a life? Does that mean pull someone from underneath the rubble of an earthquake? Does it mean to pull someone out of a fire before they're burned? Does it mean to pull them out of water before they drown? What it means to save a life is to mean that we have taken someone from illusion into reality, that we have taken someone from the unstable portion of this existence and brought them into reality, brought them into connection with Allah, brought them into the truth. And what is the one life that we have to save? What is the one life we are given responsibility for? And that life is our own. And if we can do that for ourselves, if we can save ourselves, if we can find the truth in ourselves that was placed within us by Allah, if we can see with the eyes of wisdom and the nur, so that instead of seeing illusion, we see God. If we learn how to hear the resonance of Allah as opposed to the noise of the dunya, we are on the road to seeing Allah. If we begin to speak the words of truth and the words that are godly and the words of prayer, then we are moving towards the truth. If we can do these things, then we are saving ourselves. And when we save ourselves and become pure, then we are capable of saving others. Then we are capable of entering into that state of the Nur and the Ketubiyat, entering into that state where the resonance of Allah flows through us and can flow to others. But to do that, we must become pure. We must leave our attachment to all of the illusion. We must leave our attachment to all of the worldly glitters and hypnotisms. We must understand that they need to be left behind and that they will not give us the results that we're looking for. If we continue to give obeisance to the world, then what is in store for us are the natural disasters of the world. We will have earthquakes within us. We will have hurricanes within us. We will have tornadoes within us. We will have all kinds of various diseases within us. But to separate ourselves from this elemental form and to understand that we are truly light beings who were created as light beings, and to find our way towards the connection with that light is the truth of our path, is the truth of our way. It's said by some that the reason for the 5-time prayer is each one of the prayers detaches you from one of the 5 elements during the day. And when you get to the point that you're detached from all of the 5 elements, then you can move forward into the truth. But you have to detach yourself from all of the 5 elements. And as you detach yourself from the elements, then the truth will dawn within you. Then the truth will come out of you. It's already there. Wisdom is already there. All of it has already been placed in you. It's not far from you. It just takes the appropriate attitude to find it within you and to bring it out within you. It must grow as an embryo within you and then come forth in a full-blown light in the way that the Nur came from Allah. The Nur has to come from us. We must go through what Allah went through, and then we can step into reality. We can step into light. We can step into truth. And then this second that we live will turn into an eternity. These few years that we call a lifetime. And in seconds, they disappear. But in truth, if we enter into eternity, there is no time and there is no end. There just is. And there is God's kingdom and man as part of God's kingdom. We have to find that place. We have to find that way. We have to find that path. And that path is found through various ways. One of the ways is to get close to one who has found that path, because that path is available to us by way of nearness. You know, Rumi had all the books in the world, and he was a scholar with books, but he never found reality until Shams came and stayed with him and induced within him what it is that Shem's had. So we need to find one who has found that place. We need to be close to that one. And that's why I would drive 75 miles each way 3 or 4 times a week to be near my sheikh, because I needed to be near that truth. I needed to be near that resonance. I needed to be near that which elevated me and took the darkness away from me. Being in contact with truth takes the darkness away from you. And as the darkness is removed, effulgence comes into your being. The effulgence of truth, the effulgence of grace, the effulgence of the gracious qualities, the effulgence of the 99 names, the effulgence of reality. It enters into us and becomes who we are, because we are already that. We have just been covered up by Maya, by illusion, and by elemental forces. We need to break through and allow the truth of who we are to shine forth. And that exists within every one of us. And it's not a matter of ego. It's not a matter of anything other than recognizing the truth of yourself, recognizing the reality of what man is. And man is meant to be the representative of Allah. Man is meant to be the son of Allah. Man is meant to carry the secrets of Allah. So we have to place ourselves in that situation. We have to have faith, certitude, and determination as to that reality. And then we have to move in that reality. Give up all of that instability and take on truth, and allow truth to come forth from deep within us and shine as the effulgent light that is eternal. May that come to pass for each of us. May we all come to know that truth. May we all come to know that light. May we all come to live in God's kingdom, and in God's kingdom we will live with all of the prophets and all of the ketubs and all of the holy ones, and we will be brought close to God. And may it come to pass that we are known as those who are God's friends. Ameen, Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.